Hello. Oh, you're muted.
Hi, Joni.
Oh, hi. How are you?
So in addition to everything else, I've done something to my laptop.
Just so you know, we're being recorded already, just so you know.
Okay. Okay. So I've done something to my laptop so that I'm not getting the sound out of the laptop. I have to have my earphones in, and that never happened before. So just
Good,
another
of course.
another one of my glitches. So anyway, yes, I looked at your screen at one point in the recording from Monday night, last Monday, and it looked like across from the part you told me to look at where it has where it has the view and the other, well, across from that you had these other.
Well, look, can you see the screen right now?
Yes,
So you don't have at the top of your screen what says Lightroom Classic?
I have Lightroom catalog, it says.
Oh, so maybe it is different on a PC, and I wasn't sure. Do you know how to share screen?
Let me see, I'll share.
Wait a second. Before you do that, I'm already sharing. So you don't have a view button? You don't have, what does it say to the right of Lightroom catalog?
It does say view, and I did plug in, I did click on show filter bar.
Oh, and this filter bar didn't show up here? Hold on.
It's the one way up at the very top on the yellow part. You see your yellow part at the top? That yellow band at the very top. And it starts with Lightroom Classic, and you go over and over to the right. And on the right, it has like you're hooked in. Where is it that you were able to click search? You had a search choice somewhere, and you could click it to search for an image.
In text. And then you can search for, like, let's say keywords, contains.
I thought you had a thing at the very tip top on a bar that had search as one of your choices.
Up here?
Yes.
No.
Farther over to the other side.
Well, over here, there's a search right here, but that's my Mac search. That has nothing to do with Lightroom. That's a computer search.
Okay.
That's not a Lightroom search. That search over there is my icon for Mac.
Okay. All right. So,
but now everything in this white bar here, from here below, all this screen is. Minimize it, and I'll minimize that. I can X out of that and X out of that. Okay, and then open my Zoom window again. No, not that one. Open up this. Am I sharing screen still? Yeah, you can see my screen, right?
I can.
All right. So anything from this white bar over below, that's my Lightroom.
All right. All right. And I have all of that. Okay.
So when you click on view, but is this what you were looking for, where you search for text or attribute metadata? So you can search for things. That wasn't what you were talking about, this toolbar here, the filter. Oh, right. I thought you were talking about the filter.
Okay. So yeah, I can go into text. No, can't.
Oh, you can go into. So what is it that you were looking for?
Well, I was looking for that top bar that you have, which happens to be your Mac bar, not your Lightroom bar.
Which says Zoom, Dropbox. This is my Adobe. This is my Backblaze. This is something else. I don't know what that is. That's some other thing. Yeah. That's my Bluetooth. That's my time machine. That's my internet. Okay. Yeah, this is all. See all of that? That's on.
It's all your background. Okay, it's all your background. Right. I get it. Okay.
Yeah. You're not
All right.
searching for anything in Lightroom on that.
No. So the only way you can search for an image in Lightroom is to go to this bar, the text, the attributes, the metadata,
Yeah,
or none.
you filter.
Right.
You filter things. There's a bunch of ways. I mean, let's go up here to folders. Let's do, what do I have here? Let's say, I mean, on the bottom toolbar down here, there's also ways that you can sort the images, everything that's flagged, everything that's rated, everything that has a red filter, which none of these do. So nothing shows up.
You went down to where?
This toolbar that's between the between the preview area and the film strip area. I can get rid of the film strip area. So it's this toolbar down here. And I think you can hit the T to get rid of it and hit the T letter T to bring it back. So if you don't see this bar under your pictures.
Okay, I do, but I'm going to hit the T just to test it. So hit T and T.
Oh, it's on the film strip. There it is. It's on the film strip, actually.
Yeah, I have two. When I hit the T,
it's on the film strip. It's on the film strip. It's not on the toolbar. I thought this was on the toolbar. This is the film strip right here.
Yeah, right. That has
my black line above the tool strip has information about the images too, and one of them is where you can filter, and the filters are over here.
Right.
You can also do those you can always also do those filters on the filter toolbar up here in the upper right. So filters off.
Where did you go?
Right next to where text and attribute, all that, you go way over to the right, and there's a locked box, and there's a filters off, and you click that double arrow, and you can filter by rated there. You can filter by flagged there.
Okay. So I can
turn the filters off. So the filters up here, and the filters are also down here. And that might be, if you don't have it on this area above the film strip, if you put your cursor between the pictures and on that black bar above it and right click, you should be able to add things here.
Now, where did you just go?
I went here and right clicked.
Where? I don't see your.
Do you see my cursor right here?
Oh, right. You're down below. Yes.
Yeah.
Just above the film strip.
Yeah. What's up? Oh, I know what's up with this. Hold on, I have to I have to do some housework here.
Yeah. My layout is different from yours.
Yeah, that could be.
And so
there's lots of reasons why. Do you want to share your screen?
I can. I
have to stop sharing mine.
Yeah, I was looking at.
So the other thing is that you're not getting the emails from when I email the club.
I did finally find, no, I guess I didn't. And my problem is I'm juggling between my Comcast email, which was my email for decades, and for some reason it's not sending. So I have to start using the Gmail if I want to send messages. And in the past, when I would get the email about the meeting, I would just forward it to myself on my laptop, which is what has my camera and my audio. I can't do it on my desk. I can't do Zoom on my desktop and be heard or seen. So I do it on.
Yeah, go ahead.
So I do it on my laptop. So I was just toggling back and forth and sending emails, but I can't now on my Comcast. So all of this has to come in, but I found the.
So back up a second. When you're on your laptop, you can't access your Comcast email address?
I can, but I can't send anything.
Well, you don't have to send anything for this. I'm emailing you. I'm in the Lightroom SIG email group. Your email address that I'm using is ellam@comcast.net.
Okay, I will
So if
check
you can
that.
log into your, if you're, and you're using your laptop for, well,
For-
you're losing your laptop for Zoom, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So when you when you go to, when you open your laptop, can you access your Comcast email?
Yes, I should be able to.
Yeah.
It was
Can you
getting,
go, can you go open that right now and you go into your Comcast email on your laptop and see that you got the email from me this morning?
well, I'm going to close down this. I'm going to minimize this.
Oh, did you share your screen already?
No, but I can't, to get into my email, I have to, I don't
Yeah,
have I don't have an icon at the bottom to get into my email.
can you go to a browser like Internet Explorer or Chrome or
Yeah,
one of
I'm going to
those?
do
And
this. Okay.
I don't know how you do it because I'm not
Yeah.
PC, and B, I don't use Comcast. So, oh, I better
Well,
change my name here.
yeah, let's see. Sign in to Xfinity. So I have to sign in. It's not popping up automatically. But I
I
can
should only
check.
have to do that once.
I know, but it's changed. It's,
Yeah,
you
I
know
get
what?
that.
Yeah.
I just want to
As
make sure. So we got to figure out a way for you to get the emails from Gateway
okay,
on your laptop.
I will get them. I'll just have to make sure I go in and check, just go in and check my emails regularly. I have to do that. And so I can get it. So don't worry about that. And I got it tonight because I still have it on I have it in a file on my
Right.
laptop, which has the ID and the passcode, and it's the same every time, right?
It is. Yep.
Okay, so
It
that's how
is.
I got in. Okay,
All right. All
all
right.
right.
So yeah. So any emails that the SIG is sending you, it's all through Comcast. And the only time
Right,
it's an issue for you is when you want to log into Zoom. It's not an issue if I'm sending other information like the links. If I send the link out
right,
tomorrow, you'll go on your desktop computer, you access your Comcast email easily, and you can get everything there.
right, right.
It's just that when you're trying to log into Zoom, you need to figure out how to get on your Comcast. I get it.
Right. Yeah, but I'm working on that, and I just had my glasses. I'm working on that, and my computer guy came. I spent after 6 hours on Monday, a week
Ugh,
today,
ugh.
getting
Oh, I
getting.
remember. Yeah.
So then the next day, one of the things was I had to spend over an hour with somebody, and another guy came later, and then my computer guy came, and he said, "You realize that your emails are not being sent?" And I said,
Oh,
"No, I did not."
and
Yeah,
that's a separate issue than what we're talking about because it's
yeah, yeah,
receiving, not
yeah.
sending.
Right, right, right. So, and they're not sending. I am receiving, not sending. And he couldn't figure it out, and he had to leave. He was here for 2 hours.
Ugh.
I know, I
Is
know.
that only from your laptop or for or does it matter? It's a send,
It's
a send, a send.
it's it's Comcast. It's
Yeah,
a problem with
right.
Comcast. So well, listen, I will give. You want to take a break here and
No, I'm all
okay.
done. I just had to go. I have a little closet off my office here, and it's
Yeah.
really cold in there. And I noticed that the door was an accordion door, and it was like
Uh,
open just a little bit. And I thought, oh, it's going to get drafty, so I just made sure
oh,
it was closed all the
so you
way.
don't
So,
you don't have any pipes coming in there?
oh, yeah, yeah. There's pipes in here. I
No,
mean,
I
there's
mean
not.
in your closet.
I don't know. I don't know. I mean,
Because that
it's so jam packed with stuff. I couldn't tell you. Probably not.
well, if it's not an outside wall, it should be okay. Because that's what they were saying about frozen pipes
The right
during.
side, one of the walls is an outside wall. But one of the walls is an outside wall in the
Yeah.
closet. It's like behind my whole computer. It's in this whole wall. And
Okay.
yeah, but that's not this whole room actually. It has one little, probably 4 foot long baseboard for this whole office and that closet.
For
It's
heat.
very small. Yeah, it's actually very small. I never noticed that before because I don't think it's behind my bookcase. Nope, because that's not an outside wall. Nope, it's one very small.
So you might need a quartz heater or something for down there? What you,
No, it's warm enough most of the time. We keep the temperature down here anyway because we're not down here very often.
right,
Today I turned it up because I was down here a lot, but we do have a gas fireplace in the room adjacent to it, the big den, when
Oh,
like when you
right.
walk in when your front door there.
Yeah.
So that would heat up quite a bit here. But I don't, the only thing, I get my toes get a little cold sitting down here for a couple hours. That's all.
Right.
I have a like a sweater on the back of the chair here if I get cold, and it's just my toes. My
Yeah.
little toes.
If my ankles get cold,
Ah,
I'm cold. I like to have my ankles warm, I just discovered.
yeah.
So
Ankles,
this,
not toes, huh?
yeah, toes don't bother me. It's my ankles. So this whole program has been wonderful. I haven't checked in with yeah, Alan yet about going there for this week. But anyway,
Oh, okay.
this program has been wonderful. And I know everybody appreciates it and just getting into Lightroom. And I think part of the issue for me was coming in, like we talked about where it goes. And
Right.
does yours go directly? Do you go into your external hard drive or internal hard drive?
Well, I don't go anywhere. I tell Lightroom where to put the photos and where to point to the photos. But
Right. And
all of my photos, I'll share again. So here's my desktop, and here are, actually one of them I took out. It's not there anymore. Can you see me?
I can
Can you
see
see my
you.
desktop? Oh, you can't
Um,
see my
no,
desktop? You
I'm
can't?
seeing, I'm seeing,
All right, hold on.
okay,
I'll do it again.
okay. So yeah, I'm
Can
seeing
you
your,
see Lightroom right now?
yes.
Okay. And if I minimize that, can you see my desktop?
Well, I can see, yes, I can see your screen with your different folders.
Yeah, so all of
Yeah,
these gold icons are different external hard drives
okay,
on the right. That's
yeah,
this backs up my computer. These are photos, photos, photos. I have a separate one for, this is the Lightroom. These are where I save the SIG stuff, and I have another
mhm.
Summit, but these are all my SIG recordings. I download them as I go so that I can, because I have to delete them off Zoom. This backs up Lightroom. This is just a folder for backing up Lightroom.
And what is that? Just an external
Yeah, yeah. It's a
hard
separate,
drive?
it's a separate external hard drive
Yeah,
because if my internal hard drive fails, and my catalog is on this drive, on the hard drive, on the internal hard drive, and I want to be able to pull one of these backups. Like this was the backup when I closed down today. No, where's today's? Oh, there wasn't one today. I guess I didn't back up today. That's interesting. I thought I did actually. That's interesting. Oh, I think now it's got me thinking this is the SIG one. Catalog settings, general. That's that. Interesting. I might not have put it there. I have my main catalog this there, but maybe not my SIG catalog. Let's see.
all right. So your main catalog is
Yeah.
on your internal hard drive.
Yes, because I
And
find it so big that it runs faster if I do it there.
right on your internal.
Yeah.
And then do you have one on an external? Do you have a copy of it on an
No,
external? Okay.
no, I have the backups. I just have the backups.
All right. And they just back up everything all the time.
Every time I close.
Mm-hmm.
And backups here. What's today's date?
The 4th. No, I'm sorry, the 6th.
All right. Too many things here.
I don't know how you keep track of it.
Well, I don't, clearly. I'm searching right now for something. Okay. So for the SIG catalog, because I have two catalogs I'm working with right now. My own catalog, which is right, that's not it either. My own catalog's in a different place. But this is the Lightroom catalog right here.
Mm-hmm.
And this is where I backed it up. So today I did back it up. And that's on my internal hard drive, a folder on my internal hard drive.
How
Go ahead.
how big is your internal hard drive?
Oh, I don't remember. It's a pretty new machine, but let's see. I forget that techie stuff once I don't have it
Yeah.
anymore.
Yeah, because when my guy was here, he looked and he said, "Oh my God," he said, "you only have a fraction of space on my. I only have a fraction of space on my desktop and on my laptop." So I spent a good part of the afternoon trying to get images down to an external hard drive from my pictures.
Mm, 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 mm. See, I know just enough to be dangerous. I shouldn't be teaching this class.
No, you're doing great. And I thought this last one was terrific because we heard everybody else's different versions, which emphasized the idea there are many ways to do it, but once you do it your way and stick with it.
I have a 2 terabyte internal hard drive.
Oh, wow. Okay. I'm sure I don't have that. Yeah. I just got a 2 terabyte external hard drive today.
So these hard drives are almost all the Lightroom backup is a one terabyte, and the rest of these are 4 terabytes each.
Yeah, each one of those on your
Yeah.
screen.
And, yeah, and they're not
Yeah.
like really full. They're not really full.
So how do you decide which goes in there? Those are by dates.
Well, yeah, you know me, I
Yeah.
go by dates.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
this is all my images before 2018. Then I have 2018 to 2021, and I'll probably do 2022 to 2024 here or something like
Okay.
that.
Okay.
And depending on how
All
much
right.
I shoot. I mean, I didn't shoot as many images before 2018
Uh-huh.
as I have, you know.
So when you import, you import into your pictures.
No, that's on your hard drive.
Right.
When I import to the one of my right now it's the 2022, 2023 external hard drive. So the images are there, but the catalog's on the internal hard drive and the backup is on its own separate external hard drive.
The backup of your catalog is on a separate external. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
I don't keep the catalog on my internal hard drive. And then I have Backblaze, which backs everything up.
So
everything except Time Machine.
Your Lightroom catalog is not on your internal hard drive.
My catalog is on my internal hard drive.
Right. Yep. Okay.
Absolutely.
All right. So when I import, mine go into my pictures.
Mm-hmm. That's the default, and that's why your hard drive is getting getting full.
Right. So I'm trying to put those my pictures as I edit them over into an external hard drive.
Well, and within Lightroom, you can move them to an external hard drive. That's easy.
Okay.
You just have to do it in Lightroom. You just have to do it in Lightroom.
And how do you do that?
All right, so I'll share this. Hi, everybody coming in.
Hi.
So let's say, I don't want to do a big, I'll do this. Hold on. Let's say this folder, I want to move to a different hard drive than it's on the 2023, right? What did I do? Hold on. I want to make sure. No, that's not what I want. I want this. There we go. There we go. So maybe this folder, I want to move into this hard drive right here, right? So I take this folder and I'm going to open this just to get it. I'm just going to take this folder and move it into here.
Okay,
There's the
so,
status bar where it's moving.
okay,
And now all these pictures and this whole folder is now on this hard drive. I moved it from the 2022-23 hard drive to the 2018-2021 hard drive.
and Lightroom knows that because you did it in Lightroom.
Correct. And now if I go over here, that Calendly folder, what year was it in 2021? There's a lot more stuff in there for the years. I don't remember where it was in this.
Right.
I have to go
But
back
it's
and
in,
look.
it's in there.
It's
Yeah,
in 2021.
okay,
And it's probably here down here because it's ordered by date. So it's down there.
Mhm.
If I move it now while I'm in the hard drive, I'll screw up Lightroom. I'll have to tell Lightroom where it is later. But let's say your pictures are on your hard drive. Mine's called Macintosh HD. So your pictures in the pictures, let's see. No, we can't do it that way, but if you were importing, one of these things up here would be your hard drive. So for me, it's my Mac, and for me, I go to Joni Rich and I go to users, Joni Rich pictures right there. And your pictures would be in a folder.
right, okay,
Right there. And then you could take, but if you wanted to move them, you'd have that in your hard drive. You'd have a file called pictures right here, and you could take the folder from pictures and move it onto an external hard drive. You could take any one of these and move it to an external hard drive.
okay, and the
Just
external
like
hard drive is,
pretend this is the internal hard drive and this is
Yeah.
the external hard drive. So I'm going to take this folder and move it into that hard drive.
okay,
It's as
All
easy
right.
as that.
okay, all right, but they have to be on the left. You have to have the folders on the left. So I
Well,
have
they
to
could-
go,
well,
I'll investigate.
They could
Yeah,
be on the
I'll-
right, but you can move these
Right.
panels, I think, but that's not
Right.
the issue. Yeah,
No.
you're right. The external hard drive has to be plugged into your computer.
Okay, yep,
It has to know, the computer has to know the internal hard drive is there.
and it'll show on the panel on the, under the photos there, on the left.
Yes,
Okay.
and it should have a little green box like that. That means in this catalog, I only have pictures on these two hard drives because
Mhm.
I haven't imported my whole real catalog. I'm just importing things as we go along.
Okay,
This is a small catalog and it runs faster because of that.
okay, thank you. I think I'm getting it slowly.
Oh,
but
it's 7
surely.
o'clock. How many
Yep,
people do
it
we
is.
have here?
Yeah. Well, we have
Stop share.
Andrea was in and Al.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah. Hi, guys. Yeah.
Hi, I was just gonna say hi, everybody.
Hey, everybody.
Hello.
Not a
What
lot
was-
of people here today, 11. We're losing people by the week.
Are we?
Yeah, from 38. Last week, I think we had 24. But Frank, do people tend to come in like a little late usually? Oh, Melinda changed her name. She's not Elm Pep.
Oh, is that the one you didn't know?
Yeah, it was Melinda.
Mhm. So maybe a lot of people have other things on Monday nights, but they know they can see the recording.
Well, I know some people do. Yeah, definitely, for
Mhm.
sure.
Yeah, maybe
Frank,
they're
you
waiting
there?
to get to the good stuff.
I'm here.
Oh, hi, Frank.
I'm on a different computer.
I can tell. I can hardly hear you. All right, well, we're gonna get started here because it is a big. The next couple of weeks are there's a lot of information. I don't have any idea how long this one's gonna take. I hope to get through what I plan to get through, but that doesn't mean that I will. And I just want to remind people, if you could turn off your mic and turn off your video, just to make things go a little bit faster, that would help me. Because again, this is a really long a long week, a lot of information today. I'm going to present, period. I'd like you to all stay mute. And if you have a question or a comment, anything you want to add, please just type it in chat. I will need to take little breaks because I'm doing things on the computer and I have my notes here, but I can't like read the notes and do things on the computer. So I kind of glance down and follow along and make sure I'm not missing something, or if I have a question that I don't even remember about something, it takes me a second to find it. So in those times, I'll just say, Frank, do you have any questions? And we'll do it that way rather than people just piping in the middle of the presentation. I have been looking at some of the videos, not the whole thing, but it's kind of scanning through. I think I'm talking really fast and going really fast. And if the speed is a little bit too fast, please put that in chat and Frank will say, Joni, slow down or go over this again or something, because I know I tend to talk fast. And when I'm looking at it with eyes of somebody who maybe doesn't know the program as well, I'm thinking, ooh, I'm kind of going a little fast. I don't know if that was really very clear. So please, please let me know. This is for your benefit. I want you all to get something out of it. I'm going to share my screen. The other thing, a lot of the pictures that I'm using tonight are not my pictures. Last year, I had purchased a class through Matt Koslowski, and with that class on Lightroom came these images. And in preparing for tonight, I decided that these were images that I was going to use as well, because they had all of the different qualities in different images that were better used as an example. I didn't always have an architectural picture or all the different variety of pictures in this Lightroom catalog, which is very basic and minimum. It's just what I've imported in the last couple of weeks. So these are not my images. Library panel, now we're going into the develop panel. And we've been in the library panel the last few weeks pretty much. The develop panel, you can see as I change between panels, looks a little bit different. First of all, in the library panel, you can have this grid view where you see a whole bunch of images, or you can double click an image and see a single image, go back to grid, and you can just click on this icon, choose a picture, click on the single icon, and you've got a single picture. In develop, you automatically go to a single picture. You can't have a grid in develop module. There is and I don't do it, but I know there is a way in your preferences that you can change. If you want this left panel on the right panel on the left, there's some, you can actually change those panels. I've just kept it the way Lightroom's default is. And when you're in library manual, the library module, if you want to get over to develop, the keyboard shortcut is D. If you want to get back to library from any of the modules, the keyboard shortcut is G. So that's just, if you're not, that's just a little keyboard shortcut. The other little thing, you can choose a couple of different pictures to look at more than one pictures in the develop module. If you click on the bottom of the screen, RA, you can do a reference photo and an active photo, so you can make comparisons. And you can see before and after. If you do the Y, it's before and after. So there are some other ways. You can have a couple of pictures in. Again, I don't tend to use this much, but just so you know, there are options down there to see more, to see a before and after of your image, or to see what one picture looks like next to another picture. I don't think I did the reference right, but let's see. That doesn't make sense. If I had, okay, let's say we have this picture and this picture. And you wanted to develop them two different ways and see the difference, something like that. Okay, so we'll start with the left panel and we'll go a little quickly through this because it's not quite as important as the right side. The navigator, I think, is similar in library, except that if I'm in the develop module and I zoom in, and one way to zoom, you can zoom in a couple of different ways. You can go to 100%, You can go to a different percentage of zoom. You can also, with keyboard shortcuts, do Command plus to go zoom in where you want and Command minus to zoom back out. And when you're in the navigator, this is the portion that you're seeing in the preview, but you can still see the whole image in the navigator. And you can take this, you can put your mouse inside the box and move it around, or you can just move it around with your cursor, and you can see the box in the navigator correspondingly is moving around. So that's the difference in navigator that you see that you're zooming in. And like we did in library, you can right click next to any, not the top one navigator, but next to any of the other groups here. If you right click, you can decide which group you want to keep in here. If there's something you never use, you might want to take it out. If you never use a snapshot, sorry, I took out history. I would right click and check on snapshots, and that would be gone. It just saves space on the right-hand side. And the other thing we've talked about before is going solo mode. That just means if I open one group and I want to go to another group, the first group automatically closes. So again, you don't have all of these lists. If I expand them all, you're just going to be continually scrolling. Expand them all. Now you scroll. I mean, this is obviously a small catalog, like I've said, so we don't have a ton of stuff, but in the real world, that's not how it would be. So I'm going to collapse them all and go to solo mode. Presets are a set of developments that can be applied to your photo. Predetermined, a set of whatever. You can see if I open this one, I just randomly pick Seasons Autumn and I click on it. If I scroll down, each one of these is a preset under the folder Seasons Autumn. And you can see a preview of it as you scroll down the screen. If you go over to the Develop module, they're not actually changing. These settings are not changing as I preview. But let's say I decide, oh, I kind of like that. Maybe I kind of like that. Yeah, so I'm going to click on that preset. Now you can see settings have changed in here, and they've actually adjusted the photo. Now in Lightrooms, nothing is. Oh, whoever that is, can you just turn your mic off, please? Nothing is destructive. You can always get back. You can reset this, and it'll go right back the way it was. You can try different presets. You can create your own preset by clicking on the X, so on this plus sign. I would maybe adjust the picture first. Let's say I have 20 pictures that are all really similar to this. And I want to do something. This is a JPEG, so I don't want that. Whatever, and now I have this group of settings, and I've decided, okay, the next 20 pictures, it's the same thing, only different. I'm going to click on the plus sign, create a preset. I'm going to title this preset. I'm going to check all, make sure all the things are there, and I'll save it. And let's say I'll just do Fall Mountain. And I will create that. And now in my user profiles, I'll have Fall Mountain. So if I have another image, which I thought there is in the library. Here's a similar picture. Where'd it go? Oh my goodness. There we go. Here's a similar picture, or is that the same picture? I can't even tell. That's the same picture. I thought there was another one. similar picture, and I want to apply that preset, I would just go back to here. I mean, then they are different, but that's how you would work. If you had a whole group of pictures that you wanted to apply that preset to. I think we talked about this last week, that we could turn the auto sync on and would automatically change all those images to that preset. And that didn't seem to work, so. Oh, I didn't do anything. There we go. I'll do this, fall basic. And now if I look at any one of these images that I did it to, they all have these settings applied. So it's a good way to batch and quicken up and speed up, make your editing quicker. Now, that was kind of a lot. So can anybody, are there any questions on that right now, Frank?
Joni, you have to pick the 7 or 8 photos that you want to change, right? Highlight them.
If you want to batch them, yes. And I think you came in a little bit later, Phyllis, but just for the next couple of weeks, because there's so much information, I'm going to ask anybody that has a question to put it in chat, and I'm going to stop at appropriate places that, that make sense, and have Frank read the questions or comments from the chat, rather than people just opening up their mic. I don't think you were here at the beginning, so maybe you didn't hear that. But Frank, were there any other questions? But yes, you're right, Phyllis. I would have to click on one image and click on, if you can see on the bottom, I have 7 or 8 images that are all highlighted and chosen, and I have auto sync on. So if I go into a preset and apply that preset, now all of those will have the same settings. All of these settings in the develop module are the same. And just so you know, if we don't like those settings, and I don't know if I can do that as a group, so let me see if I can do this as a group. You can click this X and clear the history so that now they're all back to the original image. Let me see if this does it, this does it. No, they didn't, so it didn't batch do that. But any one image, I have this image picked right now. If I click the X, all those settings that I applied to this are now gone. So now it's all back to the original image. Okay, now let's do this. Here's what that's a preset. Now here's what I don't understand. I do see that, and this surprises me, that all of these settings are still there. Like I have to reset it. I guess I have to reset each one. I am surprised about that. I guess I took the presets off. I cleared the history, but I didn't change the actual developed settings. So that's a new one for me. That was not how I expected it. But if I go to each picture and click the reset button, I'm resetting it back to their original, the original settings. And I think there was one over here. This one. Okay. So that's just a little bit about presets. Yes, Frank.
Beth mentioned that you should be able to batch reset in the grid mode.
That could be. Yeah, I don't know about the grid mode, because the grid mode is only in library. Let's see. Let me make a change to just 2 pictures. And I'll do this Fall Mountain one again. And if I go to library and I go to these 2 pictures in grid mode, you think I can't, there's no reset here. There's no reset button. You have to be in the develop module to reset these. Now, these are both highlighted in my film strip. Let's see if they reset both that way. And they do. They're all zeroed out. Both of these pictures are zeroed out. So you can batch change them that way. Again, these are tools that I don't even really use a lot. So that's why if I don't know everything off the top of my head, Does anybody have questions on what these presets are though? I mean, all of these presets are Adobe gives you. These two presets and this one I'm gonna like delete now because I'm not going to use it. In this preset is a basic preset I had created, and these this is a preset that Matt Kloskowski had given when he did a course on the new masking features of Develop, which we don't have. But you can, and so that came with a course, and I imported them by right-clicking here and imported the presets. I had downloaded the presets into the downloads area of my hard drive, and I could import them by clicking on the plus sign. Manage presets is all about making a folder and putting presets within folders. Here's a portrait folder that has several presets, and so on and so forth. Each of these arrows, because they're solid, that means if you open them up, there's something tucked within there. Presets, basic. See if there's any other notes on presets. You could even take a preset that is already here, let's say a black and white preset, and you can go through here and decide, I like a contrasty one, maybe this, but maybe this is a little too contrasty. So maybe I go into my Develop module and I pull the contrast down. Maybe I increase the exposure a little. Maybe I do a couple of things. I go, okay, now I have a set of 10 pictures that are similar to this that I want to apply this preset to. So now I click the plus sign, create a preset, and I call it my black and white, my high contrast black and white. And now if I have a group of pictures that I want to apply that to, I could do that, my high contrast black and white. And these pictures are now have those same settings. So again, it's just a way that you can work with a bunch of pictures and work quicker. Presets. Snapshots, I'm going to hold off for a second to show that because I think it piggybacks better with something else. The snapshot is taking a picture of where you are in the editing process. History is all the edits that you've done to an image from the very beginning when you imported it. And if you want to get back to a particular point in this editing process, maybe I did a bunch of things afterwards that I don't like, but I like where it stood here, then I can start from there. And anything I apply, if I make a change now to white balance and go to auto, let's say, do you see how all of the things that were done after Fall Mountain went away? I started there as like a base, and now those went away, and now I've got auto. So you've got to be careful about that. You don't want to change it unless you know all those things in the meantime. Oh, I really hate what I did to that picture. I don't like it at all. It's terrible. It's awful. It's whatever. All these things, oh, that's terrible. I'm going to go right back to here. But now if I do anything else, before I do it, all of these adjustments will be erased and they'll go away in your history. Does that make sense? Now, if we do have a lot of adjustments, let's see, I'm going to do this in auto, and that's too warm. I might bring it down. I might bring the exposure down a little. I might bring the contrast up. I might do some texture and some clarity. Maybe a little dehaze. I'm going to check my whites and check my blacks. So I have the set. Oh, I really like this picture, but I want to see what it's going to look like in black and white. You don't have to create a virtual copy. Now you can do a snapshot. And you can name this high contrast, let's say. Color. Name it whatever you want. And now I go into the image and I decide I want to make it a black and white, and I want to do a preset, high contrast black and white, which isn't that contrasty to me. Maybe I want to go down here, something like that. And even then bump up the contrast more. Oh, so that's a good version of that too. Let me take a snapshot of that. And I click here and I do high contrast black and white. And now I go back here and I decide, okay, I don't really like the black and white. I want to play with something else now. I want to, well, maybe I'll sharpen it a little. Something like that. Okay, I like that better. But if I go, oh no, this was better. Let me go back to that. Now I see how these sharpening are reset. Now I'm back to the image before I did that luminance and sharpening. So you can always get back to something you saved as a snapshot. It's not a duplicate of the image, it's just the version that you saved at that point in time. Questions? Am I
Yeah,
and am I going too fast?
no, with this snapshots, because Lightroom has a big bug or drawback, I would say, that you cannot just erase one item from your history. You have to go back all the way before that step that you don't like and then start
Right.
all over again.
Correct.
Now, these snapshots, so they were created at different points in your develop process.
Right.
So if you go to them, then if you go to one of the snapshot, then you can start from there, right?
No, I think it's adding to your history. See, when I went to that snapshot high contrast color,
Yeah.
after I did those sharpening steps, it didn't erase any of these steps. It just brought me to that version in history. Now, if I want to go, maybe I make a change from here even. Trying to think of something that's kind of dramatic. I make it darker. And okay, now I want to look at the black and white. So now do you see how all of these things that I did to it are in the history? Now I want to export this. I export it the way it is. Then I go back to wherever. I want to go back to this one and I export this one. It's not affecting it's not affecting anything I did back here. It's not erasing anything. I can still go back to all of these things, but it is giving me the option to look at the photo in two or more different versions. And it's adding to the history. Does that make sense? And
Well,
Fred, I'm not.
I understand what you're saying. It doesn't make sense from
Oh,
my point of view, but I understand. Yeah.
It doesn't make sense because what doesn't make
Well,
sense?
it doesn't make sense because, for instance, if you decide to go back to a certain processing, then I guess in my logic, you would start from there. And like, for instance, if you go back to high contrast black and white, right, you would process the black and white picture. But now it's just processing on top of what you already have done previously.
So you think that this is affected because I did this exposure thing?
That's actually a good question. I don't know. It's a question for
I
you.
go here
Yeah.
and then I go back to the high contrast black and white.
I'm a little bit confused about how these snapshots actually work in the whole history workflow.
Right.
My question.
Yeah. I think it's just that you saved this in this particular point in time, and you bringing it back to that set of settings is my understanding. And again, I haven't used it a lot. I tend to, this is something I learned in getting ready for this class, to be honest with you. So my workflow hasn't used this a lot. I typically would make virtual copies, but when I was reading about this, the virtual copies, they get more confusing if you have many different versions of it, and it's just easier to name and keep track of them here. And because this night's so long, I'm going to put this as a question that I'm going to research for the beginning of next week.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, virtual copies make more sense to me because you can go in parallel with different development steps.
Right. I understand that. I
Yeah.
understand that. And that's the way I've done it too. But as in theory and reading about this, I think this is an easier option once we can wrap our head around it. So
Yeah, okay.
I'm just going to write a note. Fred, and I know you might have come in after I made this announcement, but for the next couple of weeks, because there is so much going on and we have so much material to go over, I'm asking that people not ask questions during the program. If you have a question or a comment, put it in the chat. And Frank, I do see that there's a few things in chat there. Is there anything I need to address?
Yeah, there was a question from Phyllis that was saying, if you save the snapshot, can you just keep it and then save it as an image later in the competition, or do you have to switch it from snapshot to something more permanent?
No, I believe
That makes
that you can take this image now, and this is the version, and right click and export, and you can export this version of the image and into whatever folder it is you export to on your hard drive, and then load and then use, load up to the website for competition, upload to the website. I think that's a benefit of this.
Thanks.
Okay.
Anything else?
That's it in chat for now.
Okay. And I do explain this a little bit more in detail in the notes too, just so you know. Collections. We're going to do a whole SIG on collections and smart collections. But just, and I think if anybody saw the, oh no, never mind. Skip that. But a regular collection can be synced with what we're calling Lightroom CC, or the cloud. That little sync button up here is telling me that nothing's being synced right now because they're all synced. But if I put something into a collection, and then when you're in the cloud version of Lightroom, which is, I can open it up. It's also similar to your Lightroom mobile, which is, it can be used on a smartphone or a tablet. And it has all the editing capabilities that we have in Lightroom Classic that we're going to go over tonight. Crop, healing, all the new masking techniques, everything you want to do on a tablet or on a smartphone, or this is a browser where you're looking at the browser version, can be done in Lightroom Classic. The advantage to Lightroom Classic is, let's say I have this is a shoot, too many folders here, because this is from this is a family photo shoot I did. And if I highlight it and right click it, I can share this to the family, and they'll get a link, shareable link. And now this link I'm going to copy, and I can email it, text it, put it in, a lot of times it's Facebook Messenger. I can send them this link. And when they click on this link, they're going to see their photo albums. Now, these are thumbnails, but they can preview the images that I'm sending them. From there, they can comment and they can tell me if they like it. And I would be able to view the comments both here in Lightroom Mobile or the cloud, and regular Lightroom would have comments as well. I think I took comments off. Oh, it's in the library probably. But I think, oh, comments is right here. If there was a comment on an image, you'd see it. If they wrote a comment on an image, or if I wrote a comment, this is the one that blah, 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 whatever message I want to say about a particular image, when you're in Lightroom Cloud, Creative Cloud, Lightroom CC, if someone writes a comment, so now I don't know where it is. There it is. Looking it down here. You can make comments here, and then I would be able to see the comments. They would be able to see my comments. Does that make sense? My point is, one of the benefits of collections is that you can make a set of collections, you can share them on the web through the Creative Cloud. And if you had a collection that was there, you could edit them on your tablet or on your smartphone. You can import images on your smartphone to your Lightroom Mobile, put them in a collection, and they will sync back to your full Lightroom. So they sync back and forth. Let's see. They also have smart collections. Lightroom has smart collections, and these are already, this is the default that Lightroom gives you these. Again, we're going to do a whole thing. The difference between smart collection is whenever an image has a criteria that is created in a smart collection, it automatically adds the image to the specific smart collection. If you say, I want a smart collection of all the colored red images in this catalog, there was no images there, I colored this image red, it automatically got added. I don't have to highlight and move them into the collection, which is what you would have to do in a non-smart collection. You set up a set of criteria. Now I'm going to take that red badge off of there. Well, actually what I did was, so now there's two images. I'm going to take this red badge off. If I can color label no, and now there's 0 again. So it sorts, it's not adding pictures, it's not moving pictures, it's just sorting these pictures so that you can easily find certain things. Maybe when Alan was doing his, one of his projects, like the carousel project, and he went, you know, he has his Lightroom organized by places, but he's in some place in New York and he only has like 3 or 4 carousel images. If he puts a keyword carousel on that image when he imports it, and he has a smart collection that says, please add any image that says keyword carousel, every time he imports and the picture has carousel on the keyword, it'll automatically be collected for him. He never has to wonder where all those pictures are. Again, we'll do a whole thing on it, but I wanted to give you a little bit of information just so you know. Now the big stuff in the develop module. I don't like this. I want to go back to, I'm going to reset this. Okay. And clear the history. I think I do that because it's not my image, so I really don't want to change somebody else's image. This is probably what a lot of, this is where we all are in Lightroom. You get your pictures in, you figure them out, but it's your develop, it's editing it. This is the monster of Lightroom. This is part, yeah, this is the develop, the library, you know, organizes everything, but the develop module is got a lot going on. I'm trying to go slow. All the exposures, except for the masking tools that we're going to go over next week, all these exposures are what they call global, meaning they affect the entire picture. If you increase exposure, the entire picture increases in exposure or decreases in exposure. Typically, you know, everything is set at a 0 point when you come in, and you can increase the effect or decrease the effect. Right is increase, left is decrease, and you can see in this little scrubby here, it tells you how much it's increasing, 0.7. This is about 5 stops either way, I believe. And it's not really exactly equating to a camera stop, but it's approximately. And if I don't like this, I want to reset it back. I double click on exposure and it goes right back to your setting. If I use 0 setting, if I do a bunch of them and I don't like any of this, if I double click tone, all of these settings will go back to 0. Same with presence, clarity, texture, dehaze. Oh, I don't like that. I'm going to do this. Oh, I don't like any of that. I double click presence and it goes back. That's just a little bit of navigation here. This area works the same way the other panels will work. If you right click the histogram, you can't change, but on any of these other groups in the panels, if you right click, you can go into solo mode, which I highly recommend. But if you right click, this is a little different. You can customize the develop panel. So if I click on this, now I have a customized develop panel, and you can change the order of these groupings, and you can uncheck the box if there's something you don't use. I don't typically use calibration. I would uncheck that. I hardly use, the ones I use a lot are basic. I use effects a lot, so I might move that up. I use lens correct. I don't usually use that actually because I do that on import. Detail transform. That's probably about tone curve. I don't typically use that, but I do keep it up in case I want it. And I do keep it up in case I want it. And I could save that. And now this is, sorry. You do have to relaunch Lightroom in order to see those changes. So I'm not going to relight it. I'm not going to relaunch it. But you can see by just dragging these up and moving them around, you can change the order. And by unchecking and checking, you can take them out. You'll just have to trust me. They do come out. Next time you open Lightroom, they won't all be there. And a couple of keyboard shortcuts that I didn't already tell you. If you make several adjustments and you want to see the before and after of an adjustment, you can hit the / key. So that in your upper right hand, you see this before. That was the original picture. I don't even see the difference, honestly, because I reset the settings. Okay, there we go. Here's before, and go back to current, before and current. That's a / key. You're not really bringing that photo back to the beginning when you started, before you started making adjustments. You're just seeing what it looked like before. You can see the difference. I showed you earlier, if you want to reset everything, you can always reset by clicking on the button at the bottom of the panel. But that doesn't erase your history, it just brings it back. You can still go back to wherever we were, whatever version of it. And also you still have your snapshots there. If there's a section that you have done something to, and you want to see just the before and after of just that section, there's a little toggle switch in all but the basic. All of these have a toggle switch. So you can see before, and again, you're not changing the effect, you're just looking at it before and after. There's really nothing that you can do in Lightroom that permanently affects the actual image. The image doesn't change. The raw image is on your hard drive, wherever you are, your external hard drive, wherever you store your photos. You are just, all of these adjustments are directions that Lightroom says, here's the picture. Here's a set of directions I want you to apply. Marry them together. They're not embedded. They're not baked into the actual photo. They're what's called a sidecar, or there's another word for it. It's a text file. And it just says, this is how I want you to change how it looks in this version at this point in time. Never change the original raw photo. It's always the same on your hard drive. But there's a set of instructions next to it. This is what I want to do to that photo to make it look like this. How about questions, Frank?
We're good.
Okay, making sure. Thanks. So let's just start from the top. You're all familiar, I assume, with the histogram. The histogram here is similar to the way it is in library, but the difference is if you have something that's going way up on the right or way up on the left, you can actually adjust the image. This little scrubby will hit to the right. You can see this triangle is telling me I'm clipping the right, and you can see it in the image here, but I'm clipping the highlights. And if I want to bring that down, one quick way to do it is to take this double bar scrubby and move it left. And just keep moving it left until it's gone. Why isn't it doing it? Please. There we go, it's going there. But you can take this scrubby and move it. Now, it's not doing anything other than adjusting these sliders in, but it's just another way to do it. Typically, maybe I'll do a bunch of adjustments here, and then I do something in detail or effects, and I realize, ooh, I really started clipping the blacks. At the end of an image, when I'm pretty much done editing, then I'll start to look and try to just nudge it to get it from not clipping. This white triangle is telling me I'm clipping and losing data in the highlights, and this triangle on the left is telling me I'm clipping and losing data in the shadows in the dark areas. And go right back to the beginning there. The histogram has the information about the photo here. Obviously, this is just an original photo. Typically, if I have a smart preview, it will tell you original photo and smart preview. And you know that the histogram is just a visual representative of all the tonality in your image. You can turn these clipping boxes on or off if you don't want to see them. I have them set on. And if you right click, you can see that you can show color, lab color values, and show clipping. In this particular one is showing the color clipping, reds, greens, blues. But I believe you can do it so that you're only showing the luminance of the whole, not the separate luminance of the colors, but I'm not seeing it in here now. I will have to get back to you on that. Maybe they can't change it anymore. It used to be able, and in previous versions of Lightroom, you had a choice on whether you wanted to see the color clipping or not. I mean, it's beneficial to see if your reds are going out of the gamut as well. Oh, I'm gonna check that. Okay. The next set is special adjustments, and this is what I'm going to save for next week. If you get into any of these, I will just tell you, if you click on any of them, you want to get back to the basic panel, you just have to click these little slider, and now you're back into the default of the develop panel, the right panel. Let's see. I'm gonna need to get to this section, I need a It's interesting. Okay, never mind. I'm gonna look at something cute. This section. Interesting. Why isn't this doing it either? Sorry, folks. This is not working as expected. Okay, we'll do this one. And I don't know, I think because I know why the other one didn't. Anyway, this is color profiles. And I want to make clear that profiles are different than presets. Your camera actually has profiles in it. If you've ever noticed that you can do you can change the profile on your camera to shoot more vivid. I think standard is basic, but you can shoot vivid, you can shoot high contrast. There's different profile settings so that all your images look that way in the back of your camera. If you're shooting raw, none of it matters because you can always change that. Adobe has their own default color profile, but there's other profiles in here that you could look at. And if you want to see the more, you click on the set of 4 squares, and they have some other ones. In some of them, not all, especially not the Adobe Raw, you can see that this bar gets blacked out. But if you're in the artistic ones, you can now apply an amount slider. You can increase the amount or decrease the amount. So you have some flexibility there. And if you do something like this, I'm going to close it. Notice that none of my white balance hasn't changed. My vibrance is, none of these color things have changed. My hue saturation, these are all zeroed out. I'm not adjusting like you are a preset. You're just applying a profile to the picture. Some people use these more creatively than, they're not really correcting anything, but they may be using them more creatively. And oftentimes people will either use this as a starting place and then change something about it, or after they've completely edited their picture, but they want to bring, maybe it's a composite, and they want to bring tonalities all sort of make them feel more adhesive. Or for whatever reason, they want to add a little stylistic something to the picture. They'll look at profiles after they edit the whole picture. I'll be honest, I don't use profiles, but I did read about them. And that's my understanding of how they work. So I'm going to go back to that. And I'm going to go back to, I don't know if any of the other ones, I need to find one of these images that are, DNG is fine. I don't have to make sure I'm not wrong. Some of these things, they don't, when I look at here at was it this image? Yeah. When I go down to white balance, if I'm on, this is a DNG, so I have all these options. But when you're on a JPEG, you only get 3 options. When you're shooting in RAW, you have a lot more options on how to change white balance. So these are some defaults, some choices that Lightroom gives. And again, if you shoot in RAW, all your options are open. So you have many ways to change the white balance. You can do an auto, see what that looks like. You can choose any one of these and see if it's something that feels good to you, if that's what you want to do. Or if you know you shot in the shade that day, you probably want to try. This looks like it was daylight. That's probably appropriate. Another way to change your white balance is to just, all you're doing, all these white balance settings are just adjusting the temperature and the tint. And those are the 2 things that make up the white balance, or the color of the color temperature of your image. shot goes there. Auto isn't that different. And another way that you might want to change, if you have a neutral gray area, which this seems to me is probably a neutral gray here or here. It looks like it's concrete. And if I take this eyedrop picker and I place it on, this looks a little blue to me. Let's go back up to here to this part. And I don't know this picture, so I don't know what was going on at that time. This seems like very warm for being in the shade to me. That feels a little better. But in your images, you'll know what was probably great. Or you could use a white balance card. So if I go to this image, reset it. And I want to check the white balance here. I might take one of these and you can see the temperature and the tint were at these values. And it made it a little bluer, brought down, it made it a little cooler. I don't know if the tint changed. The tint didn't change, just the temperature. So that's an easy way, and I'm just gonna put the picker back. So lots of choices on how to set your color temperature of your image. Questions here, Frank?
See, we have a couple of informative links that Paul LrC put in on snapshots versus virtual copies, so people can get that out of the chat. And
I believe for
is-
some, okay, for some of these, and I don't think I have it for snapshots, but for some things as I go along, I have links in the notes as well, but I didn't for snapshots, so thank you.
Okay, yeah, and that is about the comments that we have so far. There's a question, you can batch these too, Phyllis asked?
Batch what to, Phyllis, I'll open up your, batch what? I think the answer is yes, but
The changes that you just made, like if
yes,
you had 5 of them out and you just made these changes, you can batch them too. So you don't have to change every single one of them.
no, perfect question, thank you. You mean for white balance?
Mhm.
Or, yeah, absolutely. So let's say in white balance here, I'm gonna take, this does look gray. Didn't change it a whole lot, but let's say it did. And I have 4 pictures here, similar lighting conditions, similar subjects. And because I have auto sync, they all just batched. So if I go back into this one, black, you can see on the left-hand side, the white balance custom was made. And the settings are 58, 50, and +1. And if I go to the next picture, it's not 58, 50, and +1. Hold on. It's 58, 50, and +6. Oh, look at what's going on.
What?
They should be.
You have to be selected all in advance to do it all at once.
They were.
She did select them all.
I had this select and this select. Oh, I see what you're saying. And now I have to take this and go here. Thank you. That was it. I think that I didn't do it that way. And now if I do here, it's 58, 50, and +4. No, see, it still didn't. 58, 50, +4. There we go. 58 plus, yep, it did. I was advancing using my arrows and it didn't work. It's interesting. I don't know why. Doing something else. Okay. So that is the benefit of batching, and especially a group of pictures that are the same. All right, I'm not going to bother that with too much there. White balance. Anything else?
No more in comments.
Okay. Now my notes got mixed up. Hold on. Okay. Now we're getting into the tone area. As a good starting place, there is an auto button that you can check out and at least give it a start. That might be maybe a little too contrasty, or the haze didn't get changed, but there might be something that you think, and then you can adjust it from there. Or you can set them all back to 0 and adjust each slider on your own. There's no real order that makes any difference in any of these adjustments. Some people just like to start from top to bottom. I personally often will crop an image and then make my adjustments, because then I know I'm making my adjustments only on the area of the image that I'm actually going to have to use to save. Calibrating your monitor on a regular basis, I didn't say this, is a good idea for correcting white balance. You want your monitor to be calibrated so you're getting the right colors. When I am making adjustments, again, I tend to go top to bottom within each box, but I tend to use my order of the groups, which are different than this order, but it doesn't matter. And a good thought process is to, what's the worst thing in the image? What's the first thing you want to correct? You know, in this image, it might be, oh, the shadows, I need to bring the shadows up. So that's the first thing I might do, is bring the shadows up. Then typically I also want to bring, and if you go up so much that you're still not getting enough, now you know you need to increase the exposure a little bit. Well, the bright areas are getting a little brighter, so I'm going to bring the highlights down a little. So what I'm doing is taking the thing that's the most intrusive to me, the thing I'd like the least about it, and working on that first, and keep working on the image until either I'm very happy with it, or it's as good as it's going to get. I can't do anything else with it. I might want to add a little texture, a little clarity here. I might want to lower the contrast. I might still want to make it a little brighter. I might want to add a vignette. So in terms of thought process and workflow, I typically, whatever bothers me the most, I work on first. Now I'm opening this up and I see, oh, there's a little bit of noise in there. So I might want to take the detail slider and reduce the noise. Or you can just work top to bottom. It's really whatever works for your brain. It's none of it. It doesn't pile on top of each other. One doesn't affect the other. So in general, we know that, I think most people know, exposure will lighten an image or darken an image. So if you go to the right, you're lightening it, and you go to the left, you're darkening it. And if you want to set it back, I told you just to double tap on it. Contrast also lightens and darkens, but it lightens the light and darkens the dark. So it increases the space between how bright the bright spots are and how dark the dark spots are. And that's increased. So the darkers are getting darker and the lights are getting lighter. And if I lower contrast, it's doing the opposite. The darks are getting lighter and the lights are getting darker. Highlights adjust the brightness of the midtones. So just the midtones are getting brighter. Shadows increases or decreases the dark areas of the midtones. You can just see the shadows are coming out. Now you can see whatever I've done up here. I've got a highlight in my histogram. And what I'm going to do is set the black point because it's on the left side, which is the dark side, by clicking Option and the triangle and the slider. I'm going to bring this down until I just start to see a tad of black, and then I'm going to bring it back. So that's setting my black point. To set the white point, I'm going to do the opposite. I'm going to hit the Option or Alt key on PCs and bring this up until I just start to see a little color, and then bring it back. Now, I don't particularly like that, but that's just setting the, it's supposed to set. That's interesting because typically that white triangle will go away. Usually if I go right there, I'm not clipping any of the darks. But it certainly is here. If I bring the shadows up, it takes that away. I do have a link in here about the difference between highlights and whites too, that you can read on. The presence section of the basic group just affect really the edges of an image. So the Lightroom is looking at the edges of maybe these, the little fur here, and it's going to add, if you look, if you can, let me zoom in a little. And look at something like this, the fur part here. You want to add some texture to it. It's just looking at the contrast on the edges. And it does, and it will sharpen a little, although this is a terrible picture to show that on, I think. And clarity will increase the difference between the lightness and the darkness of the mid-tone areas. And that's showing a little bit brighter. Maybe I should do another image. I'm going to double click presence to just zero all those out and bring up the texture. I'm going to go up even more. And you can go too far. You'll start to see like little worm, like, it doesn't show in here, but you can go too far. And clarity is just increasing and decreasing the contrast at the edges. And that does make it look sharper. Dehaze takes reduces the haze by adding or taking away contrast. If you want something to even have a little bit of a, maybe a little bit more misty look to it, you might drop the haze a little, and it gives it a little bit more of a misty look. And increasing the haze usually adds a lot of contrast. Vibrance and saturation, these are subtle differences. Vibrance increases and decreases the least saturated parts of an image. It detects highly saturated portions of the scene. It protects highly saturated portions of the scene as well as skin tones. So if you have people, you want to increase vibrance to add more color. Saturation will change the skin tones more. Vibrance will protect it. Saturation increases or decreases the intensity of all the colors. And vibrance increases the least saturated parts of the image. And you can see when I'm making these now, I'm starting to clip things. That's what I typically would kind of just go back and shimmy this back a little at the end of a picture. It's bringing my whites down, but I think I have to bring the highlights down too to get that gone. And maybe even exposure. Ooh, I don't like that. The lips on those girls. And I do have a link on more information on saturation versus vibrance. That's the basic panel. How about questions now? No, Fred? Frank?
We're good. Yeah, I think the only clipping, that white clipping, is just that little sunbeam on the left-hand side over there.
Oh, down here. Yeah. And I guess that's going to be appropriate.
Other than that, we're good. No comments.
No, am I going too fast? Am I making sense? It's hard when I'm reading my notes and going back and forth. And
I think,
I think you're okay, but if people think it's a little too fast, just put a note in chat and we'll work on it.
I think one of the problems is I'm a really fast typist. By the time I type my comment, you're 3 steps ahead. That's just,
that's okay. I can go back.
thanks.
Okay, the detail panel. This preview area might not always be in your detail, but this white triangle here indicates there's something underneath. So you would click on it and you'd get this picture, and you can move around in the picture somehow. I know there's a way you can choose where this is going to go. There we go. I'm making a liar of myself. So this is choosing the center area, I assume, but if you want to look at a different area, you click on it and you can move it around. If you want to see a more magnified view. This is broken into sharpening and noise reduction. I tried to look for this today. I believe this is a setting I have set up so that I automatically apply, and it could be a Lightroom default, but I know you can change it because I've seen other programs where it doesn't default to this. And you should be able to double click these and bring them down to 0. And that hasn't been happening with me either today when I was getting ready for tonight. So I think this is usually zeroed out, and these 3 are grayed out so you can't change them. And as you start to sharpen the image, these settings will now be available to use. And maybe I should go back to our little cougar thing here, and I'll just do like a basic auto tone. Oh, that's not good. I just don't like this picture. But here we knew that some of these spots on whatever this cat is a leopard. I don't know my wildlife. And we can go to different parts of it and we can see in 100% view, and we can sharpen that. And we can change the radius of how many pixels around are going to be used. And typically 1.3 is around what most people use. I don't actually ever change this or the detail, keep it fairly low. You can sharpen as much as you want until you feel comfortable with your image. And I'm going to do a before and after just to see if I can even see a difference in that. I don't really see a difference in that. Let's go to something like this. Let's do like just enough. Ugh. So now we're in here, and I can also zoom in here to 400%, maybe 300% would be better. And look at the difference that the sharpening is making here. This is pretty clear, especially if you look here at the edges between the dark and the white, dark and the light. Now in this picture, you're also sharpening flat areas, not just areas with texture. And one of the ways to get around that is to mask it. Masking out the parts that you don't want sharpened. If you click the Option or the Alt key and you move the slider left or right, anything that's black is being masked out from the sharpening tool. So it's not being sharpened. And anything that's white, the sharpening is being applied to. I lift it. This area didn't get sharpened the same way that this area did. Now, we have new masks available that we can really target these areas, but before we had masks, that's basically how you would do it. You would keep the flat areas from getting over sharpened. Noise reduction, as you know, when we shoot in dark areas, there can be noise. This looks like it has a lot of color noise, actually, when I look at it. And to reduce that noise reduction, we want to use the luminance slider and bring that up. And that will reduce the noise. I'm going to check something. Hold on 1 second. Now, the downfall is it makes your image blurry. This is a terrible picture. I don't want to use that at all. Was there noise in here? There was noise in this one. We saw the noise in the background here. So if I bring up the luminance, now it is making this noise go away, but it's getting softer as well. So it's always a balance between sharpening your image and reducing noise. The detail can bring it back somewhat. I don't really play with the contrast, but certainly you can. See if that does it. I don't think the contrast really does anything. Detail. I see it a little bit back here. See if you bring the detail up, you can see that's adding more sharpness, but it's basically getting rid of your luminance, what you did in the luminance slider. I don't want to play with that. So you're going to always be balancing how sharp do you want the image and not sharpening the noise in your image. If I mask this out. So masking anything that's smooth back here, I'm masking sharpening that because that's where the noise is going to live. Look at the difference there. And then when I mask it, there, and in this area here, it's probably black. I would think, yeah. Because those are smoother non-texture areas. This has more texture. And you can control how much of that. You can see the edges of those spots. That's where you're sharpening, those white areas. The black is where you're masking the sharpening from. And I think most of you are aware that there's other sharpening software programs out there that do better than Lightroom. But if you have just a nominal amount of sharpening, this will work pretty well. Okay. Questions before I go on to the next one? Getting through this a lot faster than I thought, actually. That's why I'm afraid.
Just a quick comment on some of the navigation. If you reduce the left side, and then you can take your arrow and put it on the border and stretch out all of the module on the right, so you have more room. But you don't really need anything on the left until you really need it.
It's true. You're right.
Yeah.
I think I went over this in the first week, but it's good to go over it again. And I think this is open as far. I think I have this open as. Oh, I can go further. I do tend to look at the history and use it from time to time, enough that I don't open and close this left panel, but you're right. You can right click on the arrow and hide it. So that when my cursor is taken away, it's not there. And if I bring the cursor back and click on it, it'll come back. So you can right click and do it manually so that you're always opening and closing it. There's certain options on all of these arrows. And this might be as wide as it goes now though, but this can be gone. Yeah, that's as wide as it goes now.
You just gain more direction on your left, right, on the bar.
Yep. Good point. Thank you.
Not really questions, but a few comments in the chat that people can read, but there was a comment that the detail number is high for landscapes and low for smooth surfaces.
Okay.
Fred had mentioned. And let's see, Phyllis was talking about sharpening the subject versus the other areas.
I'm sorry, can you just go back to the, in
yeah,
sharpening, the detail is,
Phil, okay, the detail number in sharpening
yeah.
is high for landscapes and low for smooth surfaces.
Well, and that makes sense. If you probably don't want a lot of, especially if you have like a lot of a portrait.
Yeah.
You're not going to want that increased.
Mhm.
People don't typically want a lot of texture in their skin, like
Okay.
for this.
Yeah.
You can.
Okay.
I mean,
And Phyllis was asking, does it matter if the area to the right of the animal is sharp? We don't really care about, and that's what you were doing with the masking. You were
Right.
picking out just the leopard's spots, and the surfaces on the leopard is what you're concerned about sharpening, and the masking helps you do that.
Well, and the other thing is the luminance is in the dark, blurrier parts. You see much more noise, rather. You see
Mhm.
more noise in those areas. So I'm taking the noise out of that area, but I need to mask when I'm sharpening because of that.
Okay.
Or actually, it's the other way around. When you're sharpening, you don't want to sharpen the noise, so you mask the areas that you don't want to sharpen.
Right.
And the luminosity is taking those areas that have noise and removing it, which is making it softer.
Okay. That's about it for the comments now.
Okay. No one's complaining I'm going too fast, so that's good.
No.
Let's see. Transform is used almost, I think, and for my images, it is going to be an architectural or where you have some perspective issues. Maybe it's because of the lens, but you see it most often in images that have that are buildings and you can't shoot them straight on. This is obviously the camera is pointed up at the building, and so it's causing some perspective issues. And so we have this whole box that looks complicated and it's not too bad. The first area are just some almost like presets. There's all of the transform tools are turned off with the off button. I would always start with auto, and that does that. It's a big difference. It's not all the way there yet. You can level it. You can make it vertical, or you can do a full. And all of these are just doing something a little bit different. You're seeing this white area because when you make these perspective changes, you're actually losing part of the image. That white area is not in your image anymore. If you click on constrain crop at the bottom, it automatically crops the image for you. And if you look at, I think that's not the crop tool, never mind. So you have to go back here. So if you look at the difference between off and let's say full, when I constrain crop, those parts of the image that were going away Constrain the crop automatically. They cut out automatically from you. And I'm going to turn this off again. A really helpful tool is this guided. When I click on guided, it activates this little tool up here. I don't know the name of it. And what you want to do is make lines along the edges that you want to straighten. So I'm going to click and drag, and you can see in the, I'm pointing it with my finger, you can't see that. You can see in the magnifying glass exactly where you're going to put your cursor, and click in the corner here, and then kind of toggle it to the right and left a little bit and try to make it so it lines up with this edge of the building as much as you can. It's very touchy. And I think there's a way to slow down that touch. I have to read my notes and slow that down.
You can drag your cursor all the way to the bottom to help adjust also.
Like this.
Yeah.
But now the top isn't where I want it to be, right?
No, it stayed. You set one point, now you're making a second point.
Okay. And it needs 2 lines. So let's maybe take this line here. That was a little easier. That line didn't go all the way to the bottom, Frank. Oh, I guess it did. It just doesn't look like, oh, it's just where that's where I dragged it, but that's the imaginary line. Okay.
Mhm.
Now that didn't work so well in that case. So let's turn them off. Maybe try a horizontal. Interesting, those are still there, even though let's do a reset. There we go. And that's why I like that open. I'm gonna go guided. I'm gonna try this again because I think it was saving other settings. Let's say I'm just gonna start here. That's really all I need is to know from here. I'm gonna go up. And here. And constrain my crop. Again, not great. Didn't do a good job. This isn't a good picture for that, but you get the idea. If I do guided horizontal, that's a little better. Dock that back there. That's a little better. See if there's any other building. I think there was a building over here. Try it with this one. I don't like that. There we go. Well, it didn't do great either there. You get the idea though? That this is what you can do with guided. You just basically have to snap these lines. If you want to do some manual adjustments, turn these off. Just back to the original picture. You can see where the vertical is. And again, I constrain crop. See where the horizontal is. You can rotate it like you're in a crop. Aspect. Scale. An X offset. Again, I never play with these. You play with them to see what you want. And to set them all back to 0. I double clicked on the transform. But that can be useful for architecture. Questions?
Again, why did you use just the adjust rather than the automatics?
Oh, just to show you how to use them. I mean, typically I'll start with, I think I said that at the beginning, I meant to, I will start with automatic.
And
And
you know you can adjust from here once you do it on automatic.
yeah, using these manual right here.
Automatic,
And
you
then use
still
these,
have adjustments.
what do you mean adjustments? These?
No,
These.
for below, yeah.
Yeah, the manual, you can manually change the vertical. Yes, you can. You're right. I did not mention that.
Okay, Beth had mentioned that she usually does a horizontal and a vertical with the guided tool.
Okay. Good to know. Okay, so the next section down is hue, saturation, and luminance. Hue is, let's look at something like this picture, I think. Hue is within each individual color, you're changing the color, the hue of it. Saturation, we're increasing the intensity of the color or decreasing to the left, increasing to the right. And luminance is the luminosity of the color. Darken, lighten to the right, darken to the left. You can double click on hue, and for each color, hue, saturation, and luminance will all be open, or click on hue and just hue, or just saturation, or just luminance. If you're looking to change the hue of, let's say, the skin tones, you can click on this little icon here and place it on the skin tone, and you can increase it or decrease it to suit your needs. Same with saturation. Click on it, bring this icon over here, maybe decrease the colors a little bit, and luminance, make it lighter or darker. And in hue, I actually think still a little. So that's just targeting where, whatever you pick. If you pick, there's not a lot of other colors in here. Let's see, in this landscape, I want to make the sky luminance a little darker. And I click on this little tool and I bring it down, and it makes the sky darker. And maybe I want to make these yellows a little brighter. So I'm going to saturate them a little bit. So I'm going to click on the yellow in here and bring that up a little. And you can see that's moving two sliders. It's moving the orange and the yellow. And clearly you can just take the greens here and maybe bump the greens up. You can use the slider to do that. And if you want to reset them, you can reset everything by clicking that, by clicking luminance, clicking hue. Oh, I didn't change anything in this picture for that. Or an individual, make that darker again. And if I want to change it, I double click to set that back to 0. So you can target a lot of specific areas. I mean, this screen is different than this screen. But maybe that green I don't want to touch, but I want to change the luminance. Maybe this luminance, I want to bring the luminance up on this screen. See how the aqua is moving when I touch here. It's changing the sky as well, even though my cursor is way over here. So you got to be careful with that. You have to really look at your picture and see what you want to target. Questions?
Masking has changed a lot of this too.
Correct.
Isolate it.
Correct. Because you can mask by color, by luminosity. absolutely. Color grading is a fairly new to Photoshop, and again, none of these things are, this one's particularly, I don't use a whole lot of. So I'm gonna try to explain it. You're changing the color and tone of your image by targeting highlights, midtones, and shadows specifically. You can change the color and the intensity. So you can target all of these individually. So we'll take the highlights, let's say, which is probably going to be a lot of here. It's going to be white in there, so maybe not. That's not a good picture. Trying to look with picture. Maybe this will work. Maybe this will work. This will work because this seems to have a lot. Let's see. This will work. This will be fine. So in the highlights, which are going to be probably up in the clouds in the sky, if I click on this, and right now I have all three in the screen. You can actually make one bigger: shadows, midtones, highlights. You can see dark, gray, white. So now here's the highlights. You have a little bit bigger area. And there's several ways you can adjust these. But at the end of the day, we'll take a look at this. Maybe I want to make it a little warmer. So I'm going to put a dot somewhere like right here. And if I want to make it even warmer, I can slide it up. If I want to make it cooler, I can bring it back to the center. If I want to bring it around and change the hue, and this is only affecting the highlights. I could do something like that maybe. And if I want maybe I want the shadows to be a little more blue, a little cooler, bring those down. I can bring this all the way around the wheel, and I can bring it towards the center to lessen the effect and towards the edge to make the effect greater. And then you can do the same with the midtones. I don't know what I want to do with those. And then I can look at before and after. The last icon here is for global adjustments, and that's really rarely used.
How do you do before and after views?
These little, there's a little toggle switch at the top of each of these sections. So if you want to do before and after of an individual section, this is before and this is after. If it's below, it's before. If it's up, it's after. If you want to do the whole image before and after, it's a backslash key. And and that's before right now and after. That makes sense. Yep.
Thanks.
If your cursor is going faster than you want on this one, you can hold the Option key and it goes slower. So you have more control by holding the Option or the Alt key. And this icon, this eyeball icon will turn, I'm in the shadows right now, we'll just turn the effect of the shadows on and off. So you can do that for each of, there's the shadows on and off. This is midtones, on and off. Highlights, each one of them, you can show the effect individually too. The blending slider, it's a global adjustment. You slide to the left to affect the dark areas of within this and the it's how much you're blending these three together. The left will affect the darker areas, right will affect the lighter areas, is what I'm told. And balance, is how you change the tone between the shadows and the highlight. Left gives the effect more shadows, right more in the highlights. So whatever effect you're applying will apply more in the shadows on the left side, and if you go right, it'll apply it more in the highlights. I think that my understanding is people that I've watched use these a lot of times, again, when they've composited images and you want an overall, there's one way to do it anyway, an overall color tone that kind of ties the image together. Okay. Tone curve. A lot of people like this that came from, started off in Lightroom. Before, started off in Photoshop before there was a Lightroom. I go through my, well, Frank, while I'm going through my notes, you want to see it? Are there any questions? Right.
Would you normally, yeah, I think, no, we're good.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I see like
I was
16,
I was trying to
19
read through
on-
the comments quickly here. I'm sorry.
Oh, that's okay. The tone curve, if you're a Photoshop user, and especially for a long time, you're probably very familiar with the tone curve. The tone curve is another tool for adjusting your image in terms of brightness and luminosity, and you can actually do color, each individual color channel as well. You can see that this part is a histogram right here. So it's a histogram like all the other histograms. It's a graphic representation of the lights and darks, light and dark pixels. The lights are to the right and the darks are to the left. And the way the tone curve works is if you want to target, let's see, maybe this might be a better, if you want to target a specific area that in the lights, you want to make it darker, you might be up to the right side of the histogram and place a dot and bring it down. And if you want to increase some of the darker areas, you might go to the left side and raise that up. And it's usually just adding some contrast. In that way. You can target each individual channel and increase it or decrease it. This is increasing and decreasing the reds, the greens, the blues. And no, that didn't work. It used to be that if you take a dot and you wanted to get rid of it, maybe this is only in Photoshop. I'll bring this down, let's say. I don't know if it changed or if it was only in Photoshop. It used to be that you could get rid of by snapping it to the edge, but I don't see that that's happening anymore. I'm just going to zero it out that way. You can right click. Oh, that's what you do. You have something, if you've made an adjustment, you want to clear it, you can right click and reset all, and it brings it back.
You can also double click a dot to make it go away.
Well, so that's what I thought. You double click but the dot's not staying there. Do you know what I mean? See how I can see the dot's there now. When I let go of the cursor, the dot's not there anymore.
But if you go back to your curve, the dot should appear, right?
Yeah, no, it's the actual
Oh.
dot that I set is not there. It's moving along the line.
Oh,
That's
it's
why you used to be
on
able to take, be able to take it and just drag it down off the grid and it would go away.
this on mine,
Now-
the dot is staying there.
Well, it might be a preference because I'm in default preferences on this Lightroom. So I haven't changed a lot of the preferences in this catalog. So it could be that. You can also target an area by using the little target here. And maybe this is a little too bright and I want to bring it down. And maybe this is a little too dark and I want to bring it up. Vice versa. So you can make adjustments by clicking on it that way too. This is, again, this is not doing anything differently than if you just took the sliders. If you go into, so what I want, tone curve. Trying to make something drastic here. I go into basic. All right, so this isn't working the way I expected either, people. My understanding is that you're making changes here in the basic panels, just doing it in a different way. Am I not right, Alan?
I was daydreaming. What you can do is, what I do is I just use it and make it look good.
Well, no, I understand that. But my question was, if I'm making a change to the tone curve, it's actually changing your sliders in the basic panel. I thought it was just a different way of doing it.
Oh,
It's
no.
like this.
Oh, no, I'm sorry. That's the wrong question I heard.
Okay.
Yeah, what you're doing is actually making the changes. You could open book, take it off the solo and watch it move.
It's not doing it. Yes. It's not doing it. See, none of those sliders are moving. The histogram is moving, but not the sliders in the basic in this tone. Isn't that interesting? I mean, I did this before on my own, separate. But my understanding is you're changing in that tone curve. You're actually adjusting it in up here. It's not.
It sure looks like it doesn't.
All right, the sliders aren't moving. No, write that down too.
I use this one to go crazy.
Yeah,
So
you can really make it look wonky.
I'll take the highlight and bring it to the bottom, and take the shadow and bring it to the top, and see what that does.
I can't even do that. It's not bringing this right side. You know how it used to be all the way down like that? Not doing it.
You've got it, you go up to the middle bar,
Up to the middle bar.
drop it down a little bit more. Right there. You missed it.
Yeah.
And
Right
take
here?
those triangles and put them at the corners.
Gotcha. Right here. It's still not going all the way to the edge though. Yeah, won't go all the way down. I know what you mean because I've seen it done and I've played with that before.
Maybe it's just in Photoshop and it's not in
yeah, maybe.
Lightroom. But
Maybe.
I don't use this very much.
Yeah, I don't either.
Yeah.
No, I don't either. But I did think that it moved these bars here. It was just a different tool to do it. Okay. Calibration also don't use a whole lot here. The only thing to really know about this is that you pretty much want to be on version 5 current. There are other versions in here. If you want to go back to what the sliders were when Lightroom was version 1, the sliders now look very different in version 1. Than version 5. You don't even have, in version 1, obviously you didn't have any of the masking tools. Oh, they are still there. That's not right. I didn't think they were. I thought I looked at it earlier and it wasn't there. But it's just going back. You want to use, you really, Lightroom makes, you're paying a subscription to have automatic updates. You might as well use them. The rest of this area here, my understanding is this is to calibrate your images. If you did a photo shoot using multiple cameras, they might all have a little bit different calibration. So you'd want to set the calibration for one camera and then set the same calibration so that all of your images in a wedding shoot, let's say, the color, the hue, all of the colors match up, because each camera has its own profile and the color temperature might be slightly different between your cameras, and that's one way you can match your images in a shoot. Let's see. Effects, the biggest tool here is the post. Let's go back to reset this image. Post-crop vignetting. I don't even use this as much anymore. I'm tend to use the masking, but to make your edges a little bit darker, you would bring it down. To make them a little bit lighter, you would bring them up. Within that, you don't see it when this slider is set to 0. You can't change the sliders underneath it, but once you begin to move this slider a little bit, and I'm going to make it an extreme, go all the way down, you can change where the midpoint of this vignette is going to be, left, right. You can move it over. You can change, you can affect if it's going to be a very round or a very square, because that vignette is much squarer, or you bring it to the right and it's round. And the feather amount, if you bring it to the left, it's a very hard line and no feather. And as you go up to the right, you've got a much more smooth transition. And highlights doesn't seem to affect this at all. Grain is, you can add noise back into the image. Let's move this back a little bit. Make it more like film. We did all that work in detail to get rid of it, but if you want to add more grain to your image, more texture, more grit, you can add the amount. You can increase the size of each of the individual grains, and the roughness, which all of this is just giving it more texture and more roughness, I guess. There's a link for calibration in here as well in the notes. I have 4 or 5 different links that expand on some areas in more detail. Lens correction is the last one in this list, and I told you in the last few weeks, I automatically remove chromatic aberrations and enable lens corrections on import. But what they're doing is, let's see if I can find an image. If you see in an image some pink or green lines around the edges of part of your image, of course, I don't see a lot in here. I can't find them. And maybe I need to even zoom in more, really pixel peep, as they say. No, I don't see them. Not that bad if they're there. Those lines can be removed by clicking this box, and then every camera and system has its own profiles, and Adobe, for the most of the I can't even talk anymore. Most of the major brands of lenses and cameras, they've got their profiles. Adobe updates the profiles and will enable any, you have a barrel distortion or things like that in your image. And you can obviously change that. There's not a lot here. How about if we go into one of those architect pictures? You can enable some of it there, and you can do, you can see that that's distortions coming in and out. And there might be some lens vignetting. If they have lens vignetting, you can kind of clean some of that up on the lens correction panel. And there is a manual way to do all this too. Again, I've never gotten into any of that. Okay, we actually got through with some little blips. I'm gonna open up your mics. You can throw anything out there at me.
Here comes the
Thank you
thing.
very much.
I just think, you know, I feel like I'm so comfortable with my own procedures, but then when I get into all these other areas that I don't use very often, I just really feel at a loss. I hope I'm getting some information that's helpful to you across.
Tony, you just
Yeah.
admit that you don't use it that often, and that you go on.
Right.
And
But-
You're doing a great job, Joni. I have
Yeah.
a question. Where do you look up, where do you go to find answers to the questions that come up in the thing?
I'll go to a few different places. I'll start with Adobe and use their support system, and there's usually lots of chats and stuff like that. I'll also do a Google search, and there's usually somebody on YouTube that will, and you have to, I mean, obviously anybody can make a YouTube, so you kind of have to pick and choose and go, okay, well, you know, how, you know, if I understand that, and I might understand it for the moment, but then you know, a week later, I might not.
I know that feeling.
Don't you just call Joni and ask the question?
No, maybe no. And Charlene doesn't use Lightroom, so while she used to and knows a little, she hasn't in years. So I can't even call Charlene.
Joni, you're
I
doing
can call
great.
Alan.
Joni, you're doing a great job. You're showing us that you don't know everything, but you know a lot, and you're willing to make errors. And that's how we learn. The only way I learn is by screwing up. And hopefully I remember. I can do the same thing 4 times, and finally I remember. So
Yeah,
you're showing us things, I think, that we may use, but we may not use, but now that we know they're there. So you're doing fine. Don't worry about yourself. You're really doing very well, because this is a very complicated thing. They have, you know, they pay people. What's his name? Kloskowski must be making a mint doing all of his, but he explains it well, and you speak slowly and you make your point. So thank you. That's my perspective.
I don't know if I speak slowly.
You do.
Okay.
You do.
This is another thing that I don't understand. I reset this. I go back from the beginning. I can clear history. I wanted to use Beth's. To take one vertical and one horizontal to see if this looks any better.
Why aren't you making it into a straight line? Why are you slanting it?
I'm following the line of the building, and then Lightroom is going to straighten it.
You did it, Joni.
Oh, it did it. Yeah, I know. It's just, it wasn't a great picture to use, I guess.
Sure it was.
That's all right.
Crooked
It
picture.
didn't. I've seen it working better in other. I've seen it work better.
So I usually leave the whole thing open, and then go back and see if I really want any of the stuff that got lost in the cropping. That way I could see the auto crop and what it left behind, or what I really wanted.
I guess that makes sense. I guess it depends on what's more. Yeah, you have to decide what's more important, the part that's left out, or the being straight. Ugh, I don't like that at all. Auto worked better, I guess. Some dust spots in that picture. It's not my picture, but I'd have dust spots too.
Sometimes crooked is good.
Yeah, we'll try to work on the MIT building, Strata building, right?
Yeah.
Good luck with
There's
that.
no way Straighten would work on that. But, you know,
Somebody had to drop a plumb line.
sometimes the perspective is, you know, it's good to have the slant perspective. It all depends on the image, I think. You know, it's what you like.
Well,
Can I-
that's true.
Can I ask a question about last week?
Oh, sure.
I
I think I
always
remember.
save my images in JPEG, and you were recommending TIFF. So
Wait,
yes,
wait. Let's back up a second. You save your image in JPEG when?
when I work on it and then I go to save it to whatever folder.
So when you're in
I-
Lightroom and you do a picture, you always export it somewhere else?
I always do Lightroom first, then I go to Photoshop, and that's
Ah.
where I size it.
Right,
And, 1400 by 1050, and then I go save as. I go to comp in February, and that's where I want to save it, but I always
okay.
save it in JPEG.
But you're talking about saving images for competition.
Images all the time. It doesn't even mean competition. I'm working on a picture. I always save it in JPEG, and it was recommended to do TIFF, so I try to do TIFF, and it gave me a whole different screen. And of
Yep.
course, it was 5 minutes of 12, so I saved it in JPEG because I didn't
Well,
have the
you don't,
patience.
so for competition guidelines, you want to save as JPEG. When I submit an image for competition, I don't go to Photoshop at all. If I go to Photoshop, it's for some other reason. Then I bring it back to Lightroom, and I only export from Lightroom for competition.
I've never done that. That's not how I learned it.
That's fine, but you're doing an extra step that you don't need to do.
Okay. But the thing was, when I
Yeah.
went to save it as TIFF, it gave me a whole different.
So when I go to Photoshop, this is called round tripping. When I go to Photoshop to work on an image for any reason,
Mhm.
maybe it's a composite, maybe I want to go to denoise, maybe I want many reasons.
Whatever.
A lot of times the healing brush, I'm not satisfied with the healing brush in Lightroom, and I have to go to Photoshop's healing and cloning tools. So let's say if I'm going to do it that way. So I take my photo from Lightroom, I edit in Photoshop, I do whatever I'm going to do to it. I never save as. I save it or I just X out of it, and it comes back into Lightroom as a separate image. It creates a duplicate of the first image and then applies what I did to it in Photoshop or Topaz or whatever, and it brings it back to Lightroom. And so whatever I only use Photoshop for things that Lightroom can't do.
Okay.
If I'm taking a picture and I've edited it to my fullest satisfaction in Lightroom and I want to submit it to competition, I never go to Photoshop. The reason I would let me back up one more second. If I go to Photoshop and I'm working on an image for anything other than for something I can't do, and I close it, my default saves it as a TIFF. And the reason I save it from Photoshop back into Lightroom as a TIFF is because if I ever have to go back into Photoshop with that image and make any other changes, when I open it up in Photoshop, the TIFF document saves all my layers. So I'm working non-destructively. I can still see all the work that I did. If I am saving an image or exporting it from Lightroom onto my hard drive so that I can upload it for competition, now I'm saving it as a JPEG because competition guidelines tell us to save as JPEG. They don't want a TIFF. The TIFF is only when I'm round tripping from Lightroom to Photoshop and back, so that I have those layers saved in the TIFF file that I can go back and edit later on if I want to.
Okay, but when I went to save as, because that's the only way I know, when I went to save as, a drop
Yep.
down menu, and I said,
Yep.
okay, I'm gonna save as a TIFF. Just
So you're
because.
not, you shouldn't be listening to that advice because I wasn't giving you that advice for for the use that you were using it for.
Right, but let's say, all right, I'm working on something and I'm
Yeah.
saving it, and I want to save it because I might come back or whatever, make a photo of it.
Yeah, but don't
It gave
save
me a
as.
whole
Don't
gave me
save
a-
as. If you
Okay,
save as, you're saving it somewhere else. You only want to save and close it, close and save it. And then it goes from Photoshop right back into Lightroom. Excuse
okay,
me.
okay, I was trying to, I do save as in Photoshop, and you're
So
saying.
now you're making all these images on your hard drive that you really don't need to, especially for competition. Let me go into the library and let me go into a picture of mine. Of course, I'm going to go to my grandson because, you know,
He's
why
so
not?
handsome.
All right, so here's my favorite picture. Let's say, and I think I have submitted, I think this is saved for a competition. So I'm this is done. I only did it in Lightroom. I didn't go anywhere else. I take a right and I edit and I export. Where am I? Export this image. This is how I do competition. Oh yeah, where'd it go?
Aren't you supposed to get something? You have to tell it where to go, don't you?
Yep. So here's my export box. And I have a preset that's Gateway.
Okay,
That's all set up. So I choose a specific folder. And this I have to, even with my preset, I choose on my external hard drives where I want to go. So I know that it's on my Mac. It's in hold on, it's on my desktop. Sorry, it's on my desktop and it's in Gateway. I'm just fumbling here. Gateway,
right there.
images, 2023. Let's say I want to do May pictorial. I'm going to submit this. Okay. So I just navigated on my hard drive to the folder on my hard drive that I want to save this image. And later I'll upload it from this place to competition. I hit choose. So
Right.
I've chosen a specific folder on my hard drive that I want to go to. I have set the name. It's going to be a custom name. So Logan's 1, let's say. My file settings are JPEG. I'm in sRGB. My image size is done here. On the long edge, it wants 1400 pixels, and the resolution doesn't matter for competition because for screen, you're not printing it. Really, the resolution is really for print, but it's my default's just there. I sharpen for screen, and it's done. Now I
Okay.
export it, and if I go to my hard drives, I put it in the Gateway, which I could never find. I have to. There we go, Gateway, and it's my Gateway images, 2023. I put it in May, pictorial. There he is.
Okay,
So now if I go to Gateway and I want to upload that image, submit image, and when I navigate, let's do it May. May pictorial.
but you
May.
passed it.
Where's May
Oh, no, you
pictorial?
didn't. Go down one.
No, it's right here. I hit select and I upload this image to competition. Now I have to navigate to desktop, GCC, images, 2023, May, pictorial. There he is. I'm not going to upload him because I think I did upload him for some pictorial. I just don't know which one it was. So I'm
Yeah,
going to cancel it, but it's all through Lightroom. I never
okay,
go to I never have to go to Photoshop. I'm pretty sure we're going to go through that at some point in the. Don't change what you're doing right now, especially at 11:59 when you're supposed to be submitting. Obviously, I would never tell you to change something at that point in time. But
well, maybe 11:30, but I did try it and I said, I don't understand this. Forget it. I'm doing
No, you're
JPEG and I
right. You-
submitted it.
I would never change your system when it's that close,
Yeah.
you know? But if Photoshop's not open, it's after 9 o'clock, but I only use Photoshop to round trip. I always keep I don't save as almost ever anywhere else from
When I first started,
Photoshop.
I was using Elements 1.
Well, you didn't have Lightroom.
Right, so you get your bad habits or good habits. Thank you.
No, that's okay. Anybody else? Go ahead to Jamia time. Well,
I
we
had
got a few more people, huh?
I had a 1-hour nap, so I'm wide awake.
Yeah,
Thank you very much,
The,
Joni.
it was probably during the color grading portion of our evening.
No, it was from 4 to 5. Hi.
I'm just kidding.
Yeah, we got up to 20 tonight, so that was pretty good.
Yeah, well,
Thanks,
I mean,
Joni.
people aren't, thank you. People aren't stuck to doing it this way. It's just if you have a question, it's nice to have, be live.
I'm used to doing things a certain way, and I feel pretty comfortable navigating around Lightroom, but I never used the guided and transform before, so I'm definitely I'll be looking at that. So.
Cool.
It has its place.
Right.
Not everything needs to be corrected.
I've never used snapshots before, so I'm going to be playing with that one.
Well, and I had until I didn't know anything. I mean, I saw it sitting there. I never paid attention to it until this, and I think I'll use it more too because I do create virtual copies sometimes, and then I bring them into Photoshop. So I have to play with it more too. I'm curious if I take a snapshot, bring it into Photoshop, do what I want to do with it. Let's say I want to do an effect in like a Topaz Studios, some kind of texture effect or whatever, and bring it back. I haven't really done all of that yet, so it's something that I want to play with too.
Mm-hmm.
You can always sort everything and put everything down to a single image, and then you expand whatever one you want. I mean, I actually never used the TIFF unless I'm exporting to a program that does not do PDF. So that's the only time I would use the TIFF. I like the fact that I'm using Lightroom and I use Photoshop, and it's all in the family, so it has an easy left and back and forth. So,
But Alan, if you're doing a composite, right? And you do composites, don't you?
yeah, a lot of them.
So yeah, so you start in Lightroom and you have 2 or 3 images and you bring them in as Photoshop in layers and you do what you're going to do with it and you make your mask. So whatever you're going to do, and then you close it and save it back to Lightroom. You have to choose a file format to save it back to. Like I think I have it. It's a preference in external editing in Lightroom.
Yeah, and I've got mine set to PDF, and it just brings it in.
Oh, PDF is fine. Oh, PDF or PSD?
Whatever
Oh,
Photoshop one.
PSD.
PSD.
And I guess the difference is that PSD isn't universally recognized as like
Right.
TIFF is. I think that's the only difference.
But it does. I mean,
Wait a minute. Beth was saying, but I can't hear you, Beth.
Still can't hear you.
You're not muted, are you?
No.
No, your mic is not working.
can you do sign language? Only kidding, Beth. Only kidding.
Type
It
it in
looked
chat.
like we had a prospective member, Melinda Pettit, here tonight. Is
She is
anybody?
a
No,
member.
she is a member. You can bring you can't, or you can bring PSD into Topaz. You
No.
can't. It says
Can't.
can.
Well,
You can't.
actually, you can if you launch it through Photoshop.
Yeah.
Because what I do is I bring all of my external stuff into Photoshop that I want.
Yeah, I don't
And then I come
typically
back into
launch Nick
Lightroom.
or Topaz from Lightroom. I usually go into Photoshop to do it, like, because I follow Hazel Meredith and that's how she does it. So that's how I've kind of done it too. And again, it usually preserves your layers.
Yeah.
Hmm.
All right, kids.
Good
That's
night.
it for
Thank
me.
you very much.
Thank you.
Good night.
You're
Yes.
welcome.
Always a
I'll send
pleasure,
everything-
Joni. Thanks for all that.
Thank you very much, Joni.
All righty.
Another
Next
great
week, we'll-
evening. Thank you.
next week I'll try to get those answers and we'll do the masking and the other special.
So Joni, if I don't have an answer, what I do is I said, I'll get back to you. I go over to the internet and just type in the question.
Mhm.
Yeah, you just
And it
have to be
gives-
careful
it
what your
gives me up
sources are.
well, it gives me a huge amount of
Yeah.
selection to deal with, and you just pick and choose.
True.
Mhm.
All right, call
Yes,
Alan.
Mr. Marshall, how are you? Your mic is off.
All right.
Okay, good night. Thanks again.
Good night. Talk to you
Good
later.
night.
Good night. Thanks, Joni.
Good
Thank you.
night.
Take care. Sorry,
You
Mickey,
too.
we're going to bed. Good
That's
night.
it. Thank you. Good job.
Call me when you need to, Mick.